Hello and welcome to another episode of Called Bank Sports. We're together again. It's been a couple of weeks, but um, we're excited to talk about the Jazz. So the Jazz right now, they have 20 games left in their schedule, which is it's a lot of games and not very many games at the same time. So there's a lot of basketball left to be played. If they won every game, they would be what is that, like 59 wins? So they can't have a 60 win season yet, but that's okay. So we kind of wanted to talk about in this episode what we expect from the Jazz for the rest of the season, and there's a lot of projections out there, which some of them have been really accurate in the past. So we're going to kind of go over some of those rankings. ESPN has one, 538 has one. There's a couple others that we've been looking at. So we'll talk about that. I just want to give a shout out, even though last night's game against the Pelicans wasn't pretty. The Jazz have been playing really good recently. In the last 10, they're 8-2, and they're fighting for that third spot. But I guess before we talk about what we think will happen in the future for the Jazz, by what seeding they'll have, I kind of want to have the conversation of, do the Jazz even want the third spot? Because
if
right
it's
now
against the Nuggets,
it's most likely the Mavs will be fifth and the Nuggets will be sixth. Obviously, that can change, so you can't plan on that 100%. But would you rather face the Mavs or a Nuggets team who's been hurt, but they might have all their stars back come playoff time?
I just don't want the PTSD of facing Jamal Murray again in the playoffs. That was absolutely terrible. Like you said, I do think the Jazz still probably win that series. Now, we've been looking at a lot of finals predictions and end of season predictions, preparing for this, right? And they really do like the Nuggets, and they do like the Nuggets with Porter Jr. back, who I don't know how good he's going to be, and with Jamal Murray back, who I have a lot more faith that he'll come back and be very productive and be a lot like his former self. I think he's had a lot of time to recover, and I hope that he can come back and play at an elite level for the sake of, his career and the like. But I definitely am concerned about playing them, and I would rather be playing. I'd rather play the Mavs. It was a close game when the Jazz played them in February, but still, I think that the Jazz are built to be able to beat the Mavericks. The Mavericks have a lot of good things going for them, especially Luka, but the Jazz are just overall a better team.
So here's kind of how I see it. I think anytime you play Luka in the playoffs, which he hasn't gotten out of the first round, but every time he's played in the playoffs, it's been a tough fight for the other team. Has he taken it to Game 7 both years?
I think so. I think it went to Game 7 both years, yeah.
And so, against his team shouldn't have taken it to Game 7 either. So we know the Mavs are going to be, just because Luka being there, it's going to be a tough battle. You're going in as the favorite. I think that's kind of the comfort of playing the Mavs. You're the favorite. It's going to be tough, but if the series is played 10 times, 100 times, you're getting out of it like 70 or 80 out of 100 times. So I kind of like those odds. The Mavs have a really good defense. I don't think it will transition into the playoffs. I may be wrong. I've been wrong about things like this in the past. The Nuggets, like you said, are kind of a wild card. You could come in and Jamal Murray may come back and he's only putting up 13 points a game and 2 assists, and Michael Porter Jr. 7 points and 6 rebounds, and they're just not giving what they would if they had the whole season to prepare for these playoffs. You also could come in and Jamal Murray, I'm not expecting him to drop like 25 plus, but he could come in with 22 points a game. Michael Porter Jr. could come in with 15, 16 and close to 10 rebounds. And if they come in like that, that's a tough matchup. The Jazz still could get out of it, but it's going to be a really tough series. So it's like, what version of the injured stars are the Jazz going to get? Because it could be a much easier series than the Mavericks, or it could be a much harder series than the Mavericks.
Yeah. So here's the main reason. In the end, we're discussing who would we rather see. But when it comes down to it, it is kind of more of a discussion of the 3 or the 4 seed, right? Since that's what the Jazz can control. And based off of that, we both like the 4 seed. I think, is that fair to say that you prefer the 4 seed? Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine either way. I would like to see them fight back and get the 3 seed just in the regular season, but come playoff time, I think 4 seed's a better strategic spot.
So here's why I want the 4 seed, and it's actually nothing to do with the first round of the playoffs. Let me share my screen really quick so we can take a look at this and just kind of get a feel. Awesome. Can you see my screen, Dale? We all good?
Yes, we're good.
Perfect. Okay, so here's why. Chances are the Golden State Warriors, and we'll see. Looks like they're going to end up playing the T-Wolves or the Clippers, right? And that'll be interesting to see.
Or potentially the Nuggets if they drop down. They've been 3-7 last 10. They've not been playing great.
Yeah. However, you look at the Suns, knowing they'll be playing the 8 seed, looking at everyone below the 10 seed right now. So we have Portland, San Antonio, Sacramento, OKC, and Houston. None of those teams are making the play-in. I feel pretty comfortable saying that.
Yeah.
Yes, like Portland, San Antonio, and Sacramento are capable of getting in there numbers-wise, but they're not making the play-in. Is that what are your thoughts on that?
I have zero hope in Portland or San Antonio right now.
Yeah.
Sacramento, I would love to see them have a run, but they're 4 games back right now. With 20 games left, that's tough, especially with how the Pelicans have been playing.
Well, yeah, with a Lakers team and a Pelicans team that aren't going to tank, right? The Lakers aren't going to tank for they're not going to tank for a lottery pick, and the Pelicans,
I don't know, maybe they should.
Unless I'm wrong, are still waiting for Zion to be back. So that's still a factor there. So you look at this, and you could have the Suns playing the Clippers, Lakers, or Pelicans in the first round. Now, obviously, I think the Lakers are the Suns are going to beat the Lakers. But when it comes to the Clippers or the Pelicans, I don't want to sell the Suns short. Like, they've had an incredible year. But the Suns did just get annihilated by the Pelicans earlier. And so, yes, the Jazz would have to play the Pelicans in round 2. And is this a great time to talk about it after they lost by 30 plus last night? Probably not. But I would rather play an unexperienced Pelicans team in the second round of the playoffs than the Phoenix Suns team with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And obviously that would be an incredible upset, but I think that matchup is seriously possible in the first round, and I think it could challenge the Suns just based on the size of the Pelicans. And we know that size really is hard for the Jazz to deal with. And it looked like earlier this week, well, obviously the Suns didn't have Chris Paul, that size is really hard for the Suns to deal with. And it's not like Chris Paul brings you size. He brings you the exact opposite.
I think it's personally, I know this won't give the Jazz the best chance to get through the West. I want to see the Jazz match up with the Suns in a playoff series. Yeah. It's everyone knows that's the toughest team in the West right now. I think the Jazz match up pretty well this season. I wasn't as confident last season. I'm more confident this season. And I think that would just be an amazing series. If it happens, Jazz, please don't prove me wrong. But even if the Suns get out of it in 7 games, I think that is probably one of the best series we could see in the entire playoffs this year. So I'm kind of rooting for that, even though it doesn't give them, percentage-wise, it probably doesn't give them the best chance.
Well, it is interesting, right? Because we haven't seen the Jazz play the Suns at a healthy point for either of them over the last 2 years, except for in one game. And I think that game went to double overtime. So you are totally right. It
would be such a fun matchup.
It was such a fun matchup. And so, yes, that the Jazz, I think, have maybe only beat the Suns once. I think they were swept last year, right? And they beat them last Sunday. But again, the Suns did not have Chris Paul, and I think they were missing someone else. So it's still kind of an unknown matchup, other than the fact that we know that it's probably going to be a good matchup. And so, while yes, the Pelicans making it out of the first round would be insane, and same with the Lakers, not as much with the Clippers if the Clippers somehow lose to the Timberwolves in that first matchup. But when you're looking at it, I do think the Pelicans could very well take Phoenix to 6. At least, if not 7. So at the very minimum, the Jazz are going to have a hard-fought first series. And I think the Suns, unless the Lakers snag the 8 seed, unless it's the Lakers or T-Wolves, Clippers or Pelicans is going to be a hard matchup. And I am assuming both Kawhi and Paul George are back for that. I don't know how realistic that still is. But that is the assumption I'm making.
This is kind of an interesting playoff because, and this has happened in the past. It's not like this is super unique to this year, but you have teams like the Clippers where what if the Stars come back and they're coming in playing the top seed, but the Clippers, if they were healthy all year long, they'd be in the top 3 seeds. Same thing with the Nuggets. Maybe not in the top 3 seeds locked in, but
yeah,
they'd be right in that conversation if they were healthy all year long. Actually, the Nuggets, I think if they were healthy all year long, they'd probably be in contention for the 1st seed with the Suns. Like that's how much talent they have. So
and health has been rough for the whole West this season, right? A lot more of a problem than for the East. Like people talk about how crazy the top 6 are looking right now in the East, where you get down to 36 wins. And yeah, that's pretty similar to the top 6 in the West. But all of a sudden, if you threw in like a healthy Clippers team, and like you were talking about a healthy Nuggets team, I all of a sudden think the West is still looking more formidable than the East.
Well, and I think people are saying the East looks good because you kind of base which conference is better based off of how many contenders they have, and you base how many a contender is, can they make it to the finals, not can they win the finals.
Fair enough.
And
yeah.
so you look at the East and it's so tightly packed that you're just like, you know what, like 1 through 4 wouldn't be a shock if they make it out of the East right now.
Yeah.
I'd kind of be shocked at the Celtics or Cavs, but that would be fun to see. The West
shocked, but it's still possible, right?
Yeah, it's probably single digits, but like it could happen. You look at the West, and most people are saying Suns or Warriors are getting out, and they're having a tough time seeing really anyone else get out of the West. And they're saying, like there's a chance the Grizzlies make it, or a chance the Jazz, or what if the Nuggets have a crazy playoff run? But it's really like Suns, and people are even starting to count out the Warriors right now because they've not been playing great without Draymond. But
they will get Draymond back, so that's why I hope to continue to see the Warriors struggle, but I'm not really concerned. Like, yeah. I think that they'll probably still have a pretty good playoff.
So it's kind of an interesting year. It's been a fun year in the East. And honestly, I think most of the basketball in the East has been more fun than a lot of the games in the West. The West has had some good games, but when some of the biggest stars in the Lakers aren't even a fun team to watch this year. Clippers are hurt. Nuggets are hurt. Jazz had a long stretch where they were hurt and they're not really playing like they were last season. So it's like people like watching the Suns and the Grizzlies in the West, and people are loving watching any team from the East 1 through 10, really.
So I do have a question, just a quick question about the East. Is it really 8 out of the 10 teams, 8 out of the top 10 that could make it out? And like have that be a reasonable statement, like maybe including the Hawks and Cavs in there is pushing it, but I mean the Hawks got close last year.
I would say I would count out. That's true. The Hawks did get close, so maybe we're counting them out too soon, and they do have a pretty deep roster.
Yeah.
I would count out the Cavs, Raptors, Hawks, and Hornets. Like saying, yeah, there is a chance, but. Like I would say it's pretty low, and no offense to the Cavs, I hope they can continue the success next year as well. But I think like this is their first year that they jump out of nowhere.
Hey,
like, to make this happen. So
yeah, when the Lakers trade LeBron James for Evan Mobley and for Jarrett Allen, and whoever else on the team, and for Colin Sexton, It'll be interesting to see.
The Cavs better not let Evan Mobley go anywhere for the next 20 years.
I am so excited to see what Evan Mobley does. It'll definitely be interesting. Like you've got some wild cards in the West, mainly due to health, and then you do have teams like Utah, where we've seen that teams have been making them struggle. That teams have been focusing a lot more on how to stop them this year, but they still did have a really good month of February. Decent month of March so far, and they're going to continue fighting. And if they're able to get into form come mid-April, the sky is the limit for this team. It's obviously up there. Like there's a reason why when we go and when we look at like 538, their predictions that they're putting the Jazz in the 4th seed, with a small chance of getting out and making it into the and winning the finals. For both of their predictions, a bit of a higher chance of making it out if you look at their player-based forecast.
Which is kind of interesting because I don't think the Jazz are super star-based like other teams.
Well, they really like Rudy Gobert in their in their player when it comes to a defense side. And Donovan's offense has been great as of late, so I'd imagine those two players do work out really well, from my understanding, in the 538 stats. You look at Basketball Reference, and yeah, I should be saying numbers for people listening to the podcast and not watching, where they give the Jazz a 17% chance of making it out of the West and an 11% chance of making the finals. I don't think I pulled up the right BPI stuff for ESPN, but the Jazz do have a chance. And the thing that I keep coming back to is all of a sudden this year, everyone is saying, "Oh, well, the Bucks are making it out of the East. The Bucks are making it's going to happen." Even though they're concerned about some things, even though the Bucks haven't been playing well as of late. And I just remember last year how everyone just said, "Oh, look, the Bucks had 2 great regular seasons. This regular season sucks. They have no shot." Right? And what happened with the Bucks? Now, all of a sudden, a year later, you can't flip on a national media channel that's not talking about how amazing the Bucks are and how great they are and how they have this playoff experience. But if Kevin Durant's foot is on the line, Coach Bud is out of a job. Discussions about whether, is Giannis going to demand a trade, whether or not it's realistic, would have been all over every podcast, every show you watched. That would have been the discussion. Is he going to demand a trade? What's going to go on here? When is he going to leave the Bucks? But because Kevin Durant's foot wasn't on the line, and because Chris Paul had a hand injury, that's not what any of the discussion is. Small things can change the course of history. And because of that, am I going to go put $1,000 down on the Jazz winning? No. But do I think there's a chance this year? Okay, I'll pull out the Called Bank savings account, Dale, and we'll go put it down on the Jazz, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's rough. I think, however, though, it's not futile and it's not hopeless. The Jazz do have a chance.
I think it's an awesome point. People counted the Bucks out last season. People are counting the Jazz out this season. And things are coming together for the Jazz right now. Rudy Gobert's been super consistent, so I don't think it's been on him that things haven't been coming together yet, or the whole season. But Donovan Mitchell, he's been having a good season recently. He's like you said, he's been tearing it up. He's getting into playoff form. If he comes in and has if he has the capability of coming in, and that Nuggets series from a few years ago when he was averaging 50 points a game or something crazy like that. Yeah. I think he has that capability again. I hope it doesn't come to that, because he was doing that because no one else could score. But Mike Conley's fitting in. As long as we stay healthy, I'm confident against the Suns. I think that's going to be a great matchup. The Warriors, depending on how healthy they are, that could be an interesting one, but I know the Jazz can beat them, so I'm trying to find the balance of, there's a chance, but I don't want to be overly optimistic, because the Jazz have had struggles this year, and I think some of them they've learned from, some of them they haven't fixed yet. So we'll have to see. These next 20 games are important.
And we have seen that the Jazz can't have people injured. Even if Daniel House were to go down right now, or Trent Forrest, I would be really concerned as a Jazz fan. Like you said, they need health. I need the Jazz to be healthy to have faith in them. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see this week. I realized we didn't say anything about Daniel House until just barely. I'm sure you gave him some accolades in your Suns post game last week, but got to give that guy a shout out. It is incredible to see what he's fighting for. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, follow us wherever you're at. We're nearing 500 followers, and we will do a giveaway once that happens. We really want to do it. We had a giveaway last week, and we're I think 16 or 18 away. So we're super close. Please help us get there. Share it with your friends. It means a lot more. I totally get that people bombard you with that everywhere, but I think it means a lot more than most of you guys understand. So please, thanks for the support. We really appreciate it. And go Jazz.